So now that you've divided your numbers, you're going to measure out your inches. So take your measuring tape, line it up. From mine would be 20 because that was my final bust measurement. Go across, put a mark, and then draw a line going all the way to the bottom. Now that you have that, you're going to measure up about 10 centimeters, which works out to be about 4 inches. And you're going to mark it on the side. Now if you're thinking that you're large, you're going to go a little bit further. You're going to do about 18. So for me, I would want 18 centimeters, which is about 7.5 inches. So if you're doing a small or a medium, 10 or 4 inches. If you're doing a large or an extra large, you're going to want 18 centimeters or 7.5 inches. Make sure you make that mark really dark because that is where you're going to be cutting your opening. After that point, you're going to measure 50 centimeters if you are a small or medium, or 19.5 inches. If you're doing the large or the extra large, you're going to measure 56 centimeters or 22 inches. Lay your measuring tape down in between, draw your next dot. If you're doing a large or an extra large, you're going to add 46 centimeters or 18 inches. And if you're doing a small or a medium, you're going to add another 50 centimeters, like in the middle, which is about 19.5 inches. So go from your dot, measure down, make your mark. Now at that mark, that's where you're going to use your full hip measurement. So mine was 44.5 divided by 2, minus 2, so it's going to be approximately 20. So measure out to that point 20 inches, or whatever your measurement is. Remember, when you're looking at this, you can always check the instruction sheet that I've handed out to you. Now that we have all of this done, we're going to draw our line to connect these to our edge. Using this ruler, make sure that you follow a line here. It should be the same number as what was on your measuring tape, so mine says 20. And just make sure that the edges line up so that you have a straight line. I'm going to turn it the other way and go up to our notch that we did up here. Again, line up the bottom with the line you drew to make sure it stays straight. And make sure all your other lines are lined up. This side, this is going to be your folded side. So measure about 2 inches from the edge and draw a rectangle. And 2 arrows. This is the universal sign for a fold. And I'm going to write it. At the top, I would suggest you write top, just so you don't forget when you're going to measure everything and cut out your fabric. For you to remember, I would say cut 1 on fold of each fabric. Or you can say cut 2 on fold if you would prefer. Make sure you write your name on it. And then we're going to cut out our pattern with paper scissors and get ready to lay it out on our fabric. flip one of your fabrics inside out and make sure to match the bottoms with each other. And then you're going to take the one you've turned inside out and put it inside. Once it's inside, you want to match the seams. So find your seam and your other seam. Find your opening and then match the seam where the opening happens. So this is our first part. So we're going to start pinning on the seam where the opening happens. So pin through your seam. Find the next seam. And then pin up the side to match your opening. So now you should have both sides pinned and a big circle in the middle. You're going to sew from the top seam right in the middle of the seam all the way down to the middle of the bottom seam. Make sure you backstitch at the end and the beginning, and then go from the middle to the top again. I'd recommend taking off your storage compartment so that you can thread your fabric underneath. So make sure that your seam is open and lying flat. Put your needle in, pull out your pin, and then you're going to sew on the 5/8 line all the way around to the other seam. Make sure that your two lines make a V so that when you turn it inside out, it's going to make that nice little V shape. You're going to want to go cut off all your loose and hanging threads right now because we're going to flip this inside out and you won't be able to get rid of them after we do that. I would like you to go and iron this now, and iron these seams right now if you haven't done so already. They should be ironed already from before. Once you've ironed it, you're going to flip your dress so that you have two sides. So it's going to look like that. In the seam where they come together, you're going to stuff your dress in. This way, your bad sides are going to be touching. Now if you find that you have some puckering happen, go into your dress and you're going to cut towards your seam to get rid of that bunch there. You're now going to take each of your pieces and divide them into 4. So to do that, take your fabric and pull it so that your seam is in one hand and the other side is in another. On that side, you're going to put a pin. Then flip it so that the pin and the seam are together, and then pull it out and put a pin on each side. Do the same to the other fabric. Do the same to the bottom. You're going to start at your seam, and you're actually going to flip it so that the good sides are going to touch. Then continue to pull it until your first set of pins are together. Again, making sure good sides are touching. And you're going to go and sew that 1/4. Once it's sewn, you're going to do the same to the next quarter, and so on and so forth until you have finished sewing all the way around your dress. By doing this, you're going to be able to have your good sides with a nice seam. So for example, that's halfway. Then you would do, once that's sewn, do the other side, leaving a 3-finger space beside either your seam or your last pin so that you can flip it through. This will be sewn on the 5/8 line. So now that you've done 2 parts, you can flip it and you'll see that we have a nice start to our circle here. And now we're going to go the other way. So from your seam, make sure your good sides go together. Okay, and again, I would leave that finger space. So find your seam, 4 fingers on one fabric, 4 on the other. Pull it around, line up your pins. Line up the other section of pins. And again, sew from your seam all the way to your second set of pins, and then you're going to have a little space here just to flip your dress through. Pull your dress through, and there's 1/2, and you're just going to iron that down and then invisible stitch that side. You can do the other side first before you do that if you'd like. So again, find your seams, twist it so your good sides are together. Pin your seam. Continue making good sides touch for 1/2 or 1/4. You can do either or, whatever you're most comfortable with doing. Okay, and again, I would leave that finger space. So find your seam, 4 fingers on one fabric, 4 on the other. Pull it around, line up your pins, line up the other section of pins, and again, so from your seam all the way to your second set of pins, and then you're going to have a little space here just to flip your dress through. So now you've sewn all 4 sections of the top and the bottom, and all you have left again is a tiny little hole to hand sew. Now when you go to put this on, the small side is your neck and the long side is your hips. The hips should be snug and they should fit tight, and the top should be a little bit loose so you get a nice top like this. If you want